You're watching Eye on Africa here on France 24. I'm Julia Kim, and these are the headlines on the continent. Ghana's Football Association fires all its national team coaches. The decision takes immediate effect and includes those from both the men's and women's teams. Infusing new methods into Kenya's tea industry, tea makers are pouring their efforts into diversification to adapt to changing tastes. And later on in the programme, we'll also tell you more about RFI's most recent Discovery Award winner, Congolese singer Celine Banza. But first, Ghana's Football Association has fired all the coaches of its national teams. In total, 9 people heading up the men's, women's and youth teams were sacked with immediate effect. The most high-profile departures include the Black Stars coach Kwesi Appiah, a former Premier League player, as well as ex-Ghana internationals Richard Kingston and Stephen Appiah. No reason was given for the unexpected decision, but the association's newly appointed president had earlier promised to build a new association. Well, sports journalist Benedict Owusu joins us live from Accra. Benedict, thank you very much for joining us on the programme tonight. Can you tell us, why has the Ghana Football Association decided to sack all its national team coaches?
Well, as you mentioned, they've not given any official reason. They communicated it via their website with a press release of the dissolution of all the national teams, as you rightly put it out. But they didn't really state whether it's based on A reason or B reason. But what we are picking up here in Ghana is that, the new FA president, the new administration, are on course to do something new. They've brought this hashtag, which has been trending on social media here in Ghana, Bring Back the Love. And in bringing back the love, they have to do things that, of course, will let the people come back to the game that they love most in this country. So, with everything that happened with respect to the Black Stars technical team, which the main coach, that's Kwesi Appiah, was tasked to win the Africa Cup of Nations and finishing in a round of 16 after that woeful performance. There was this growing concern among many Ghanaians to get him out of the job. And of course, the decision that came today, the dissolution affected all the national teams, but you realize many people have been talking about that of Kwesi Appiah, who they actually wanted him to go. So the FA today has made new friends. They have made more friends after taking that decision. Well, the other, national teams dissolution came to me as a surprise because, you look at the other teams, not much to do. But of course, they want to change the trend of always going out there to just participate in international competitions, rather go out there, participate, and do very well. And they feel that this is what they can do. And in starting new things, they feel that, yes, getting a new crop of guys to come in to lead the various national teams is the best way to go. So basically, that's why they've taken that decision to restructure, to dissolve all the national teams in terms of their coaching setup. But they didn't give any reason, but this is what I'm picking up. And I believe that's exactly what most of the top guys at the FA are also giving us in terms of a clue as to why they took this decision.
Okay, well, that's the reaction there from Ghana. But more broadly speaking, next week we'll be seeing Sadio Mane and Mo Salah be honoured at the African Footballer of the Year Awards. We know that the continent produces great players. So why aren't we seeing the same success at a national level? Is corruption and mismanagement holding back African national teams?
Well, that has been the order of the day. For so many years, when you talk about African football, one thing that comes to mind, or what many people associate African football with, is corruption. But, with Issa Hayatou going and Ahmad coming in as the vice president of, of the Confederation of African Football, at least that perception was able to win a bit. And then it resurfaced at the point where the second vice of the Confederation of African Football, who happened to be the president of the Ghana Football Association, Mr. Kwesi Nyantakyi, was seen in a documentary, engaging in some alleged bribery act. We saw in that documentary of, referees taking monies from clubs to deciding league games. So that has been the order of the day. But with the new trend of what FIFA is doing and what African football is doing with the collaboration between FIFA and CAF and the new system that most of the member associations are adopting, they are gradually drifting away from the perception and trying to paint a new picture to the world that, hey, this is not how we are, and this is not what people claim that we are, and it's just a perception. Or even if it wasn't a perception and it was a reality and was something that we're doing, now we are charting a new path and that we're going to change and get us to a level where there will be confidence in terms of public confidence, in terms of world confidence in everything we do here in the continent. Because as you mentioned, we are producing great players across the globe. You talked about Sadio Mane, Mohamed Salah. There are so many players, Kalidou Koulibaly of Napoli, even our own Ghanaian players. You talk about Jordan Ayew of Crystal Palace, who is dishing out good performances week in, week out for the side. So many players on the continent playing across the globe. And if you're talking about that, it will be interesting and it will be good for us to always highlight what these guys are doing out there for the continent, but not to talk about corruption. So that's what the African community, the football community, are trying to do, to change the perception, to get us to that level where when you speak about African football, it will all be about positivity, but not corruption.
Okay, Benedicto Owusu, we'll have to leave it there, but thank you very much for joining us on the programme tonight. Well, let's take a look at some of the other stories making news on the continent. And after 3 years in captivity in Syria, South African photojournalist Shiraz Mohammed has returned home. He'd been kidnapped in 2017 at a hospital run by a South African NGO near Aleppo. Islamic State militants are suspected of abducting Mohammed, but no group has claimed responsibility. The circumstances of his release remain unknown, but South Africa's Foreign Affairs Department said it had been working to negotiate his release from day one. Huge crowds have filled the Algerian capital for a 46th consecutive Friday of protests. Demonstrators are still calling for radical political change, just one day after newly elected President Abdelmadjid Tebboune formed his government. To the anger of many, over a third of his chosen ministers had served under former leader Abdelaziz Bouteflika. Despite liberating dozens of anti-government activists, Tebboune has failed to win much goodwill among the protesters. And all 16 people on board a Sudanese military plane were killed after it crashed in the region of West Darfur. The victims include women and children and an aid worker. The Sudanese army says the plane went down just 5 minutes after taking off from the town of Jenaina. An investigation is underway to determine the cause of the crash. This follows recent deaths of dozens of people in that area in clashes between Arab and African ethnic groups. Now, the humble cuppa has long been a pillar of Kenya's economy, but Kenyan tea makers have been learning the hard way that their brew isn't for everyone. Now, today, the industry is deviating from decades of tradition to adapt to changing tastes. Take a look.
These women have handpicked tea in Kenya's highlands for years. The process of curing and shredding the leaves has remained the same for decades. But Kenya's prized black tea is not fetching the prices it once did, forcing the top supplier of the world's most popular drink to try something new. Factory workers are experimenting with a range of boutique teas, deviating from decades of tradition in the quest for new customers and a buffer against unstable prices.
Predominantly, we produce what they call Kate and Kal, CTC tea. That's what Kenya has produced predominantly. And we are now trying to diversify to orthodox teas, the type that Sri Lanka produces. Now, that orthodox tea will enable us to enter new markets such as, Russia.
Workers in Unyeri are being retrained in the production of orthodox tea, a slower, more delicate process that preserves the leaf for a more flavourful result. This range is still being perfected at Gitugi factory, with the aim of selling it in new markets where whole leaf tea is savoured.
A country like Russia, they look at the blackness of the leaf, but they also want the experience of a good cup of tea. But the key critical item is how the leaf looks like. They prefer bolder whole leaf.
The shift towards orthodox teas has been costly, with the change in working culture also proving to be a challenge for farmers and labourers. But with prices for Kenya's traditional, finely cut tea falling, the risk was necessary to take. The Kenyan tea industry hopes that the shift will bear fruit in the long run, with custom varieties and infusions of orthodox teas often being sold at higher prices. But orthodox and specialty ranges still represent only a tiny fraction of Kenya's tea exports.
And finally, she may not yet be a household name, but that could soon change. A breakout star in the making, Congolese singer Celine Banza won the prestigious RFI Discovery Award last November. Banza is from the northern Ubangi region of the Democratic Republic of Congo, an area which borders the Central African Republic, and she sings in the local language. Maud Julien took a look.
Celine Banza's voice is both delicate and deep. She's just 22 and she's won one of the most prestigious awards for a young African musician. She says her inspiration came from the dynamic artistic scene of Kisangani in the center of the Democratic Republic of Congo.
I chose to make singing a career in Kisangani, where I met wonderful rap artists and dancers. I was a backup singer. I played the opening acts. I performed my first concert in Kisangani, and I said to myself, it's going to be music and nothing else.
She later moved to the capital, Kinshasa, where she studied at the National Arts Institute and met her 3 bandmates. Instead of French, English, or the popular Lingala language, Celine Banza sings in Gwandi, her mother tongue.
I'm from the region Equator, and singing in Ngwandi is a way for me to introduce my culture, where I come from, our identity.
Her lyrics, too, are bold. The song Tirembi, which means my body, is about asserting her value beyond the male gaze. It won the Radio France International Discovery Award in November.
It's a dream come true. It's every artist's dream to be able to showcase their culture and their art around the world.
Winning the award will give her the opportunity to tour the continent and perform in Paris.
And there's more news coming up. Stay with us.